let's take a look at some problems for Chapter 9. So I just have our ebook open. I just want to go over some of the problems here. So look at question 9-1, the after-tax cost of debt. And what they're doing here is basically saying what is the after-tax cost of debt under 3 different scenarios where the cost of debt is 13 in each one. The question really is how much does tax impact the after-tax cost of debt? So 0, 20, or 35 are the options that they're giving us. So in Excel, let me make that list a little bit bigger. Question 1, the formula we're going to use is right here. So what we do is we take the rate of 13, so I'm just going to type in decimals, and we multiply that, which I should do plus 0.13, and we're going to multiply that by 1 minus t. In the first example, it was 0, so obviously the answer is going to be, let me fix that, 13%. There's no question there. So the next one, though, was 20%. So 1 minus 0.2 is 10.4. Okay, so basically 10.4%. And then the last one is minus 0.35, and then we get 0.0845 or 8.45%. So it went from 13 to 10.4 to 8.45. What the takeaway is the higher the tax rate, the lower the after-tax cost of debt. Okay, because I think they gave us 35 because that kind of was the old corporate tax rate. Remember now that it's 22%, they just gave us around 20 there. So that's just kind of one way to think it through or take a look at how this works out. So, but just that formula there, we want to focus on the after-tax cost of debt because for corporations, they can deduct the cost of interest from taxable income. That's really what the question was about. Question 2 is along the same lines. It says here that LL Incorporated currently outstanding 11% coupon bonds have a yield to maturity of 8.4. So YTM yield to maturity of 8.4. They believe it could issue new bonds at par that provide a similar yield to maturity. The marginal tax rate is 25%. What is the cost of debt? So remember that with debt, once you kind of go through the chapter, they mention that you want to focus on market values. Okay, so when you get a question like this, it's not about the coupon yield, it's about the yield to maturity because that represents the market value of debt. So I want to use the 8.4. So that's probably the biggest issue with this question is, well, which rate do I use, 11 or 8.4? And the answer is use the 8.4. So it's really the same formula that we just got done doing. I'm just going to copy and paste this one down here. So same formula, nothing's changed there. It's just now I use, instead of 13, I use 0.084, and I use the tax rate of 25%. Okay, so I go to 25 there, and I get the answer of 6.3%, 0.063 or 6.3%. So the market rate of interest is kind of the winner, or the rate that I should use. Then we get to preferred stocks. I mentioned in class regarding Chapter 7, preferred stocks, pretty straightforward stuff. Remember, preferred stocks have a fixed dividend, and they are perpetual, meaning that they last forever until the company chooses maybe to buy them back. As long as an investor owns the stock, they'll receive the fixed dividend. So it says here to ignore flotation cost. Remember what flotation cost is. It's the cost of selling a stock. A company has to work with an investment bank or underwriter to go through the process of selling something. And that's really what they're kind of mentioning. They're just saying ignore that for now. So let's go ahead and look at a formula. I've got the formula for question 3 already here. So we're looking at what is the return on preferred stocks. So the answer is the dividend divided by the value times 1 minus f. Now we're going to ignore flotation because they just told us it's a 0. So the dividend's 4.5, and they gave us that the price was 50. Okay, and there's no, I could multiply it times 1 minus 0, which is still 50. So let's ignore that part for now. So the answer is just divide the two numbers, and that'll give us a return, which is 0.09, or obviously 9%. Okay, so pretty straightforward. That's the nice thing about preferred stocks. It's a very straightforward formula. Okay, now let's go to question 4. And now we're just going to take, a preferred stock and say, well, now let's throw in flotation. So different numbers. This company is going to issue $60 par preferred stock at a 6% dividend. So just think 6% times 60 is your dividend. And then it says a similar stock is selling on the market for 70. They pay a flotation of 5%. So when they say a similar stock is trading for 70, that really is the price. Price and par value can be different, and that's not uncommon. So the par value determines the dividend, but we're going to go with the $70 as the actual price, and then the flotation is 0.05. So for question 4, we're still down to the same formula. It's just to compute the dividend, I take the par of 60 times 0.06, which is 360. For my value, I use 70. I multiply that by 1 minus flotation, which is 0.05. Okay, so let me fix the formula there. So I get 3.6 divided by 66.5. I do the math, and I get the answer, which is 5.41%. And obviously pay attention to what when you enter these in MindTap, how many decimals they want you to round to. But most with decimals will probably have you round to 2 decimals, so just be careful of that. Okay, so that was question 4. Question 5 is cost of equity using the dividend growth model. So this is Summerdall Resort. Common stock is currently trading at 36. They expect to pay a $3 dividend. So D1, the dividend at the end of the year, so remember today is time 0, a year from now is D1, and they expect that to grow at 5%. So what's the cost of common equity? Come over here. Here's my formula. That should look familiar from chapter 7. We used the exact same formula. So D1, they just said, here it is, it's $3. And they said the price today is 36, so there's no question there. And they said that the growth rate was 0.05. So the formula would be 3 divided by 36. Okay. I'm just going to enter on that. And that's not the answer yet, but I have to make sure I do my formulas right. So I'm going to put a parentheses around that, then add in the growth rate. And that'll give me my answer, which is 13.33%. Let me just convert this to decimals, 13.33. Just be careful how you build that formula, or just do your calculator, but you have to do the division and then add the growth rate to that. Okay, then we get to question 6, and let's go back and take a look at it here. This is the CAPM, capital asset pricing model. We're going to use that to figure out what the cost of equity is. It says here Boohoo Bookstores, beta of 0.8. Yield on a 3-month T-bill is 4, and a yield on a 10-year T-bond is 6. Market risk premium is 5.5, and return on the market last year was 15. So with all that, what is the cost of equity using the CAPM? Okay. Now they're trying to trick us here, which not uncommon. When we figure out the risk-free rate, the chapter talks about using a long-term rate. So they're just giving us this T-bill rate to throw us off. We want to use the 10-year T-bond as the risk-free rate, which is 6%. So we'll go ahead and plug the numbers in. So they gave us the 0.06 as the risk-free rate, the long-term T-bond, plus 0.8, the beta, and we're going to multiply the beta times the market risk premium of 5.55. So they kind of try to throw us off again by giving us just the total return on the market, which sometimes will definitely work as we do a problem like this. Let me put these around parentheses here. I'll feel better about the answer if I do that. Okay, then we'll go ahead and enter, and that is the answer, 10.4%. Okay, and then one more that we'll do, question 7. So I'm going to put this one right here. And this is going to just take some information and compute what the WACC is. And notice what they're doing here. It says that we have debt is $300 million, $50 million preferred stock, $250 million in equity, tax rate of 25. They're giving us all the costs of each. R sub D is 6, R sub PS is 5.8, R sub S is 12. And it says the target capital structure is 35 and 65. What is the WACC? And again, they're giving us information that we just simply don't need. The balance sheet is book value. It's what it's worth today, not on market value, but on book value. And if you can recall, the WACC is a forward-looking number. It's not a historical number. I'm looking forward. So I want to use the target structure to do this. So I've got the WACC formula right here. The W stands for the weighting, and then R sub D is the cost of debt, and so on, and then 1 minus T for the tax rate. So let's just do each one by itself. So the target weighting for debt was 0.3. I'll multiply that times the R sub D, which was 0.06, and then I'll multiply that by 1 minus T, and T was 0.25. So I'm just going to hit enter. I think it's going to fix it for me. Yeah, I didn't type in the stars, but it just does that for me. So that's the debt piece. And then let's do right below it the preferred stock piece. So they told us that for preferred stock, the weighting was 0.05. And they said multiply that by the required return on preferred stock of 0.058. Okay, and that gets me to 0.029. And then we do the same thing for the stock, which was a weighting of 0.65 times a return of 12. I'll hit enter on that. It will fix that for me. I can add the three of those together, and I convert that to a percent just so it looks a little bit nicer, and I get 9.44%. Okay, so that's pretty common problems that you'll get. Sometimes you get a problem though, it's not going to be quite as straightforward. They'll make you solve for one missing component or one missing piece, and I think we all know that they like to do stuff like that to us. So just kind of be aware of that, and I think we'll be in good shape. So if you have questions, just let me know. I'm more than happy to help you guys out.